So my name is Scott Herrett. I've lived in Aberdeen for 8 years. For the last 3 years, I've been a Tory resident. I think it's relevant to mention my background and my expertise. I worked for 15 years in the civil engineering industry, project managing flood mitigation infrastructure, including SUD schemes. I also have 2 degrees, one in environmental geography and a master's degree studying concepts around biodiversity net gain and offsetting. I share many of the objections you will hear today. For my 5 minutes, I'll concentrate on flooding risks and the biodiversity mitigation measures in St Fittick's Park. When making my original objection on flooding, I didn't need a flood risk assessment to know that the site regularly floods and the impact from raising and concreting over a large section of the park will be very difficult to mitigate. For the last 2 years after winter storms, I've witnessed flooding in the park larger in extent than that shown on the 1 in 200 year flood extent plans. Climate change is here, and if the last 20 years of climate science has taught us anything, is that the impacts are often underestimated. The development itself will be at severe risk from flooding, even with the stated mitigation measures, and any land raising and will displace water and cause problems and restrict use to the public elsewhere in the park. MPF 4 clearly states if the development goes ahead, there should be no reduction in floodplain capacity and increased risk to others. The methods in which ETZ Ltd wish to get around this is to essentially move the floodplain, which will involve extensive earthworks and obviously be catastrophic to the richer nature in those areas. It will also be catastrophic to the sense of place people feel towards those locations. SEPA have an objection on these proposals because essentially the development is built on a flood risk area. According to MPF 4, no new developments can be built on a flood risk area unless the development meets at least one of the exceptions described in Policy 22. The 2 exceptions most relevant are essential infrastructure, where the location is required for operational reasons and there is no other suitable site, or water-compatible uses. Aberdeen City Council's position is the proposals do not qualify for an exception. Therefore, the plans put before you are not fit for purpose because the proposals still fall within the flood zone. Therefore, you will have no alternative to reject this application. There is the possibility pressure will be placed on officers to change this position. On the contrary, there is a veiled suggestion, even within Ironside's Farrar covering letter, that council just do that, and I think we've heard the legal representatives suggest that as well. Therefore, I urge the committee to monitor for this, and if the position does change, then an independent report is carried out into the circumstances of any change. So, irrespective of the council's view on this matter, I think it's essential an independent review is carried out into the veracity of the claims by ETZ Ltd that the numerous empty brownfield sites in Outons are unsuitable for their plans for St Fittick's Park. For example, in Outons, there are yards full of mooring equipment, and if wind turbines can be installed in the highlands, then I'm sure we can transport turbines from a yard a few hundred yards up the road in Outons to the new harbour. My other objection is around the claims in these proposals you can offset the damage caused by concreting over the park by creating new habitat elsewhere, using concepts such as biodiversity net gain. I would urge councillors to fully understand what these concepts are and look at case studies elsewhere. Biodiversity net gain, or its related concept of biodiversity offsets, is not a new idea. There are many UK examples and around the world where these schemes don't deliver on their own merits. There is a wealth of critical academic literature I can point to on this. This includes ecological critiques in that you can never really recreate the complexity of natural life in one place to another. Perhaps more compelling are the moral and the philosophical arguments that do have real-world consequences, that one cannot replace the memories and the sense of place, thus the cultural and social value people placed on a specific location in a green space elsewhere. The plans do not acknowledge or mitigate for these potential deep losses. Thus, instead, you must consider this in your decision-making. The literature also highlights the heavy financial risk placed on the local authorities through biodiversity net gains. There are numerous studies that show the financial burden of future maintenance of biodiversity net gain sites can end up with the local authority. Case studies also show governance gaps that end up meaning biodiversity net gain sites are not adequately managed, maintained or monitored to ensure they deliver on the goals under their own terms, thus becomes costly sites of biodiversity net loss. I've got more, but obviously I can see my time's gone.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Herrett. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Can I use my, since no question, can I just finish? Because I've got 5 minutes.
Your 5 minutes is
Can somebody ask me a question so I can actually finish what I was going to say?
Well, that's not really how it works. We're grateful for your input. Your comments have been noted, and obviously there will be other opportunities for you to feed in.
Okay.
Thank you for your
attendance
today.